Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alamin, wassalatu wassalamu ala asyrafil anbiya mursalin wa ala alihi washabihi ajmain. Brother, my fellow panel speaker, Datuk Saleh Jaafar, and Brother Abdul Hamid Fahmi, and also my dear Brother Isham and Brother Wahid, and all the eminent professors and audience participants. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. I know we don't have so much time. So I don't know whether we're doing justice to all the previous speakers as well, because philosophy is a tough subject, and to elaborate in such a short time, I think, to me, really is an injustice. Okay. Now, I'm going to talk basing on the fact that, assuming that everyone understood Islamic philosophy and is convinced on the necessity of integrating Islamic philosophy in Muslim education, I will just focus on what is Islamic pedagogy of philosophical inquiry and how it can assist in meeting our previous goals of Islamic philosophy and interdisciplinary curriculum. Okay. Now, I actually began talking about revitalizing philosophy and philosophical inquiry in my professional lecture in 2017. That was 4 years ago, whereby I was saying that we ended with the fact that IIUM had a philosophy department before, but unfortunately it was later merged with Usuluddin. So I don't know whether Prof. Isham would testify whether it was unfortunate or whether it's fortunate. Okay. But we lost a philosophy department. Okay. And Alhamdulillah, the latest was with Yang Berhormat Mazli when he became the Minister of Education, he managed to put in philosophy as one of the core subjects for all university students. I think that's a real achievement, because he, replace or substitute the TITAS courses or civilization courses with at least philosophy, with, I think, the aim of transforming the students' minds. Okay. Unfortunately, although it was a good idea, and we were behind it, beside Prof. Usman and so on, okay, the committee. The problem is, how do you teach something when you do not train or develop the teachers? So that is when you don't have a teachers to train thousands of students. I think you are planning to fail. So we don't know what's the progress of that course since he left the ministry. Okay, but that was the last development. Now I would like to say that it is important to teach philosophy for several reasons, and I'm an advocate of that. Because firstly, in our history, if you look at the golden period of knowledge and sciences, there was a creative mind and a lot of critical thinking going on, and we developed so much things. And then there was a lull, a period of lull, and there were efforts to revive it. If you look at Ibn Rushd and Ibn Tufail, their work are attempts. Example, Ibn Rushd, he was trying to argue against Al-Ghazali in Tahafut, but he also wrote Fasal al-Maqal, which is about the necessity of philosophy, especially the thinking. I'd like to share with you an analysis by Nurholis Majid in his work Khazanah Intellectual Islam, or Islamic Intellectual Legacy, where he said that some people sort of think that Al-Ghazali put the Muslim to a lull because of his great work, and they felt very satisfied. Okay, and it needs someone to break that cell, and Ibn Rushd was the one who got it out of the cell. Okay, and he also concluded that there's a similarity between Ibn Khaldun, Ibn Taymiyyah, Al-Ghazali. They were all opposed towards philosophy. Okay, they feel that it's impossible for philosophy to inform metaphysics, which is true. Okay, but despite their brutal criticism of philosophy, these philosophers studied philosophy, showed the appreciation for its positive aspect, especially in the systematic discipline of thinking. That's the point that I want to emphasize, in thinking, systematic thinking. Okay, and we have to appreciate that these people are not just philosophers. For example, Ibn Rushd, they are also Qadi. They also believe in Sharia as the best way of life. So this is the major reason. If you want to go back to Islamization of knowledge, make it real, and also to revive the glory of the Muslim civilization, We have to revive this because I'm okay without any philosophy of Western thoughts or philosophy of Islamic thoughts. I don't think you can do it successfully. There has to be a necessity to reclaim that conversation that which we lost. And that's why we need to bring back philosophy. And also, there is another reason. The world has changed. The world has changed, education has changed, the nature of job has changed. We have to prepare our students for a different world. So, I just like to share what Ibn Rushd argue in his Fasal al-Maqal, okay, to show the necessity of philosophy. He just used this logic. Sharia commands to study about reality of existence and proof of God. And the study about reality or existence and proof of God is philosophy, of course, beside religion, okay, philosophy. Therefore, Sharia commands to study philosophy. Symbolically, you can say A implies B, B implies C, therefore A implies C. So if the premises are true, then the conclusion is true, okay. Now, and he took that from the fact that the Quran encourages philosophizing, ijtihad, critical thinking, asking questions, the scientific method, examining tradition, all these are there. But the problem now is, even if we teach philosophy, and we teach more subject today, philosophy in the past included all the sciences, okay? We are not transformative. What we are doing is, it cannot succeed because we are just giving information. So we are teaching them about Islam, but not learning to be Muslim for their time. They're not transformation driven. And that's why we need to revive that old pedagogical tool, and I call that philosophical inquiry. If you want to transform them, we have to go back, because the way we teach our subjects, regardless of any disciplines, I notice, especially students coming from across the river to education, that means from KIIKHS, they are graduate students. When they come to my class, one of the things that they commonly say is that our lecturers never allow us to ask questions because we were asking them to ask questions, and they're saying this is very different. Okay, so that already indicates a difference in pedagogy. Okay, now the second reason I said was the change. What is the change in the 21st century? Of course, technology. We had the agricultural age, we had the industrial age. Now we have the what we call the technological age, the internet age. Okay, and it's a big difference because it changes education. Before, we are, as teachers, we are just interested in giving them products to memorize and then to regurgitate during examination. But today, this thing that we teach is already in the internet. Even if we don't teach them, they can find it by themselves. So now we are more interested in, if they receive from the internet, how do you know that it's true? Okay? So that's where you have the process of critical thinking. So now we are more interested in the process of critical thinking, the process of creative thinking, working in a team, and so on. This is necessary today. Okay? And also our economy has shifted. Our product now also shifted to service industry. We cannot regard students as anti-can anymore because we want them to construct knowledge for themselves. And it's not just teacher ask and student answer anymore. It is all people ask and the community deliberates. Okay, so that's a change in education. And we have these four critical thinking, creative thinking. I won't elaborate because I think you know what it means. Okay, but what is thinking and how does it relate to philosophy? Well, thinking is about relationship. Okay. Discovering relationship between objects, ideas, and concept. Once you have this relationship, that means you know the meaning, the makna. As Naqib Alta says, ilm is arrival of makna. Makna means you know the relationship of things, relationship of God to man, your relationship with God, your relationship with other men, with the creation, and so on. Okay, so if you have meaning, that it is, you know what this nature, what the natural world is for, all the questions that you have can be answered meaningfully. Okay, so meaningful means you establish this connection. Now, when we try to make it meaningful, when we try to establish the relationship, okay, we have to do analysis, synthesis, and evaluation. If by analysis you mean critical thinking, synthesis is creative thinking, evaluation, judgment, then these are higher order thinking components, or these are what we call reflective thinking. Now, philosophy deals a lot with critical thinking, but you cannot separate critical thinking from creative thinking. Therefore, according to Lippmann, professor of philosophy, in Colombia. Okay, he was saying that critical thinking, okay, is one that facilitates judgment because it relies on criteria, self-correcting, and is sensitive to context. In other words, if you look at this, for a person to do critical thinking, he must be open-minded because he needs to self-correct if it's wrong. He needs to be sensitive to context. It will teach him to become wise because he's sensitive to context. And he relies on criteria. In the case of the Muslim worldview, you have the Quran and the Sunnah. Okay, so this is relationship with thinking and philosophy. Okay, now regarding Islamic philosophy, maybe we can just share that if philosophy involves reflective thinking that operates within a worldview, yeah, then philosophy should be the science of constructing that systematic worldview. So that it be grounded firmly in the Quran and Sunnah for the mind to reflect upon and make sense of issues of life, and thus produces knowledge that is necessarily Islamic. So the Islamic worldview, if you have the Islamic worldview, you know the Islamic worldview, then your thinking will be producing the Islamic knowledge. Okay, and Islamic philosophy, or the Quranic term hikmah, is the science of constructing systems of meaning through reflective thinking guided by revelation. That is from Professor Achijeng from ISTEC before. Okay, so this is Islamic philosophy. So now we're talking about integrating in the university. There are two ways to look at philosophy here. One is like what Prof. Usman Bakar, our brother, has described, is a body of assumptions and principles. So you can bring philosophy into the university by doing this. Okay, so in other words, you have philosophy of science, you have philosophy of education, you have philosophy of religion, okay, you have philosophy of history and so on. But there is another aspect of philosophy that is you said, where is the action? This is the action part. I would say that this is the action part, which is the criticism, clarification, and analysis of what? Of the language, concept, and logic of what? Of the ends and the means of a discipline. You put education there, it becomes philosophy of education. So in this discipline, in this course, probably philosophy of education, there must be a lot of action going on in the mind, where you criticize, you clarify, you analyze the concept, the language, okay? But what is it? The ends and the means and the end. This is the main issue with philosophy. It's interested to know why we do this. Answer the question of why, or where are we going? So this is the two things. So when you talk about interdisciplinary just now, in the curriculum, if you're talking about the subject, this is it, number one. But if I'm talking about a pedagogy, because this one will be very, very specified to the body of knowledge. But in the second one, I'm more interested in pursuing in every courses that we offer, every discipline that we offer, the method of what we call philosophical inquiry. Okay? And this is what is lacking. This is what is lacking in Muslims, universities, and courses. We don't encourage them to ask much question because of the respect, the highest respect for teachers that they have. Okay, so regarding philosophy, it's the same stuff as what Prof. Isham mentioned, the same stuff as religion. Okay, and in fact, if you look at this, you can say that philosophy is a theory about education. Because when you do education, when you teach as a teacher, you deal with student. Student, they have their nature. The nature falls in the field of metaphysics, and there is, of course, the reason for studying it, the concept of reality that is in metaphysics, and then they have the theory of knowledge, because you deliver knowledge to them, but there must be different means, and that is methods, and then there's also values. The teacher exemplify the values, okay, and then the tool, and that tool, actually, this tool is being used very much by the teacher. The teacher is the model of the tool. This is the weapon for philosophy. Okay, do we have the tool or not? If we don't, then we have to equip ourselves with the tool. Okay. So doing philosophy means all these things that we mentioned. When they say, do we want to teach philosophy as history of Aristotle, history of Plato? I think we should, at a certain point, reclaim our conversations. So there should be history of the Islamic scholars and thoughts. And there should be the history of Western scholars and thoughts. Because these are human beings who are gifted by God for their creativity. Okay? So there should be, that is the history. But for me as a pedagogy, pedagogue, okay, I'm more interested in the pedagogy. And what does the pedagogy involve? That is doing philosophy. So what does doing philosophy involve? It means, this is now we say clarify, analyze, okay, criticize. So you have clarifying ideas, analyzing problems, giving reasons for holding certain views, all those things that, justifying reason, as what Madisha mentioned, challenging assumption, as Prof. Usman mentioned just now, okay. So these are the doing of philosophy. Or in question, it can be like, what type of claim is being made? What are the meanings of key concept in the claim? Are the supporting arguments valid, premises true, assumption correct, consequence, and so on? This is doing philosophy. And when we talk about hikmah pedagogy, which is a name that I gave, which is an offshoot of the Philosophy for Children program in America, and it's now worldwide, okay? So I gave it the same, it has the same objectives, but I want to give it the last one, the Islamic portion of it. Because I see that actually we have the Quran with us. And the Quran was also already there with the Muslim before. And with the Quran before, Al-Khwarizmi came with algebra. They come up with sines and cosines, mathematics, science, optics, and so on.
Yes. Another 5 minutes, ma'am.
5 minutes, okay. Okay, so what happened to those things? Because we still have the Quran with us. I believe that we have not been understanding we have not been really reflecting or reading the Quran. So that's why the purpose of this program, if it was to apply to Islamic education or Islamic studies, to really make the student reflect upon what they read, whether it's Quran or Hadith. And with all this critical thinking just now, and we add the Islamic ethics and the Quranic ethics or caring thinking there, we will receive what we call the wise judgment or the hikmah. That's what I theorize, okay? So now, how do you do the hikmah pedagogy? The hikmah pedagogy has 4 elements here. The aim is meaningfulness. The contents are rich concept and philosophical question. The process is the community of inquiry among students and teachers. Then what's going on in the process? All these critical thinking and creative thinking elements, okay? And what is the teacher? The teacher is a thinking coach and philosophical guide, or we call today facilitator. If I use the word facilitator, people tend to demean it. They think facilitating is very easy, but actually, if you do philosophical inquiry, facilitating is very difficult. The facilitators know much more things than their students, definitely, but they must have lots of questions to help steer the direction of the discussion. So I think I've discussed about meaningfulness. I think in terms of content, rich concept, any discipline, any subject matter has concept. The question is whether you can use those concepts and make it philosophical. Now, for the concept to be meaningful and to be made into philosophical inquiry, it has to have three elements. They must be common. That means everyone is interested in it, like freedom, justice, okay? Or even oxygen or water, okay? Central, very important to your life, and contestable. This is the difference between the social sciences and the exact sciences. Contestable. If it's not contestable, there's no discussion. It has to be contestable. There are many views of looking at it, okay? And the inquiry begins with questions. So we have to switch, make a paradigm shift. Instead of the teachers asking question, now it is the student asking question. This is a very difficult shift, okay? You need some training, but once they get used to it, it's not difficult anymore, okay? So, and how do you have the content? Normally the content, it can be in terms of text, stories or factual, opinions, letters to editors, report, subject matter on the problem of the concept. Get something short if you want to do it reading in the class. Otherwise, get them to read it before they come to the class. It can also be video clips or conversation or presentation, but don't make it more than 5 minutes, okay? Because you need time for discussion. And then poster concrete material. So give example here. There are, for example, stories for children. This is about logic. I'm sorry, I can't read what is top part here. How do I move this? For example, here, Mrs. Olsen in the liquor store. She thinks that everyone who goes to the liquor store are alcoholic. Okay, and then you can have Other topic. Oh, it's not moving now. For example, Mira on helping the poor. This is Surah Al-Ma'un. Okay, you make a story out of Surah Al-Ma'un. Then you discuss in class. Then yes, from newspaper, teachers make student crawl, mother makes teacher crawl. Okay, so you can discuss whether this is ethically correct. Or Prof. Zul's article, Vision 2020, where we went wrong. We can discuss all the points that he raised. Or for younger children, you can just show picture and look at the images. What do you see? Then discuss about life and death. Okay. So there are many ways here. And the questions that it has to be open question, not closed question. If closed question, there is only one answer. You can't do a discussion of that. Okay. And then we need to bring back Socratic questioning, because although it's stated that it's useful, because Socrates' method is like the midwife. The midwife draws the baby out of the mother. Okay. Socrates, in terms of knowledge, the teacher now draws knowledge from the student. How do you draw knowledge from the student? By asking questions. So when you have this part, this questioning and this answering, this discussion, it will slow down the thinking. They make them reflect and elaborate. It's not as...
I am sorry, but I think you have to draw to some conclusion.
Okay. So basically, okay, let me go to the last. There are tools, of course. How do you know, as a lecturer, when you have integrated hikmah pedagogy of philosophy inquiry? The sitting, first of all. The sitting has to change. You cannot sit in a traditional class. You have to sit in a semicircle or what you call this seminar type. Okay, you can make it 2 layers. Doesn't matter, as long as the students see each other and they can discuss each other. Then there is a community. Then there's an issue. There is a facilitator. They ask questions and they deliberate and collaborate for the answer. Critical, creative thinking going on. Discussion building up. Student find. Oh, sorry. Oh. It's the last slide. Huh? Okay. Sorry.
36 slides.
Almost the end.
That's amazing.
See, they might find the class meaningful, although they don't find a solution. Okay, they can agree to disagree. Okay, I think that's it. I think I stop there. Thank you, Brother Isham.